Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin Kern and thanks for clicking on it and joining me here today. So what better way to kick things off than with something really cool? I've got early access to the upcoming Cursor 0.46 update and I'm going to show you what's new in Cursor, give you an overview of the changes and share some first impressions. There are much needed UI improvements and a bunch of agent upgrades that makes the whole experience feel smoother. I've been playing with it for a bit and I can't wait to show you how it works and what's changed. Alright, let's get started. Before we look at the changes in Cursor itself, we are looking at the differences between the previous and the current version. So on the left you can see that here is the previous version and we had two tabs, one with chat and one with Composer. And Composer had two sub-modes, the normal and the agent mode. I think a lot of people didn't even recognize that there are two different modes. And so they moved everything to one unified sidebar where you can switch between ask, edit and agent. So the chat is now ask, edit is basically the normal Composer mode and the agent is still the agent. So this was the previous version of who codes, and that means how much human and how much agent is involved. And this is the current illustration. So meaning ask is like just asking and don't do any edits. You get some knowledge about the project and the code base. Then the edit is kind of your pair programmer and the agent is doing its stuff mostly alone. Not completely, but mostly. The first mode is the ask mode, previously the chat mode. It's similar as you using ChatGPT or any other LLM to get information. So like, what should I cook today? Or what are the best 10 recipes? Or what are the best travel places in Austria? So this is kind of a multi-round discussion with the agent, with the Cursor agent in your code base. Meaning you can ask about your code base. So if you're new to a project, you start in a new team and the team gives you this repository or this project and you download it into your local. And instead of digging through all this documentation stuff, you're just asking, hey, what APIs do we have in this code base? Create me a Mermaid diagram. Explain me step by step what happens here in this flow. So the ask is more like the planning mode, more the get a knowledge mode, and it's pretty helpful. And personally, my favorite or day-to-day mode is the edit mode, previously the Composer normal mode. I use it the most when I'm really working actively on project, since you can be very specific. You can be very specific with the agent mode too, but the agent sometimes just run through and it's get out of hand if you don't stop it, and it's also a bit expensive in terms of fast requests. So the edit mode is kind of this chainsaw where you do specific changes in multiple files or adding a new feature. So like you want there a new API, there you want a new component, and you need to stick that together. You write this in one prompt, adding the file references, and then you can do this all with the Composer, but with the agent too. The agent mode is the most powerful mode. It can use tools. It's best used also with these MCP servers, and it's the most autonomic one. That means you kind of write your prompts or you write some rules and send it away, and the agent will do every feature step by step. This works pretty good, but it needs some customization if you really want more agentic behavior. But for you, if you, for example, a beginner, the agent mode is probably one of the best modes for you because it's the most, let's say, intelligent one. It can also access your terminal and can, for example, start a server or restart a server. It can execute some functions like you execute some crawler or some fetcher and you get some docs in. So the agent mode is pretty powerful and you can do a lot with it. And to summarize all these modes, first the ask mode is to do your planning, to get more information about the code base, which files do I need to edit when I want to add feature X and Z and so on. You can also generate code with ask, but you need to apply it manually. And I would recommend, if you really want to edit your code base, add new features or edit and fix some bugs, then use the edit or the agent mode. The edit mode is more like the chainsaw, where you can do specific changes, multi-file changes, and it's not that expensive than the agent mode. And the agent mode is your mode which you start and it runs through all necessary features and builds them up. It also has tool use. You can use and combine it with MCP servers, which are pretty new now. So for example, you can see in this picture, you can add an MCP client and then you can ask your database, for example, so that you have one application in Cursor and you have a database, and with some MCP connection, you can ask about the tables in this database. You can also ask how to optimize this database. Another example is to use external tools like browser use or Firecrawl that you can ask and get some latest information within Cursor. Or you can also connect your project management systems. For example, you have a Notion board or a Notion Kanban board and you want to get the latest stories into Cursor and then work on these tasks autonomously with the agent. That's basically all for the explanation of these different modes. And now let's move to Cursor itself. Welcome back in Cursor. Now we're looking at the changes here in Cursor directly. And first we are going to open the sidebar pane where we can do our changes, adding features and so on. So opening the sidebar pane is either CMD-I. I guess it's Control-I on Windows. So every time I say CMD, you can use Control and then the key for it. Or let's close it again. You can use CMD-L for asking. CMD-L for asking and CMD-I for agent mode. You can switch here between the modes. As we have discussed before, this agent mode, then we have the ask mode and the edit mode. If you want to quickly switch between the modes, you can use CMD and dot. Pretty nice to switch between all these modes. I have opened here a simple Next.js starter project. And let's maybe ask, what is it all about? Then we switch to the ask mode. What is this add code base about? And with the add code base, Cursor is indexing and asking the whole code base about this project. And it doesn't generate any code now. It's just running through all the files and it's giving us some summary of the code base. Yeah, it tells us, okay, this is a tech stack, Next.js with app router, React 19, TypeScript, ChatCN UI, and so on. Another thing what you can do, or what is pretty helpful, is to create a Mermaid diagram from this code base. For this, we're already switching into the edit mode, meaning we can use CMD dot or just switching here to the edit mode and say, create a complete Mermaid diagram of the next components and give me the flow. Save this in a file called Mermaid MD in the, and then we can use another add files folders and add here docs directory. So it will be saved in to our docs directory. You can open the project tree here with CMDB. And you can see we have here a docs directory and we want to store this new Mermaid diagram into the docs. Let's save it. And while this is generating, we're going to extensions here and search for Mermaid. And you can see here are a bunch of plugins and extensions which basically just visualize these Mermaid diagrams. I installed this one here. It's called Markdown Preview Mermaid Support. This is pretty fine. Let's close this one. And we have here already this markdown preview generated by cursor. Good. Let's accept this now. Close it. I guess you can do CMD, Shift and P, and open the command pane and then write markdown open preview. Good. And we have a full, it's barely visible. We could change the colors, but it's okay for now. We can see the complete Mermaid diagram or the complete code base here visualized as Mermaid diagram, including also some pretty nice descriptions, like we have here image generation, a dashboard, a token system, authentication, state management, and so on. I think you get the idea. So this is perfectly for onboarding a new code base or a new project. You can do this with any Git repository. Pretty helpful. The next thing we are going to do is, let's ask how I can start this project. And I'm using ask since I don't want to change anything in the code. Yeah, it tells me the initial setup and then start the development server. To start the development server, we have now two options. The easiest option is hitting CMD and J for opening the terminal. I've already started it. And you can type here this pm dev, okay, to start the dev server. You can also do this with the agent, for example, means start the dev server and the agent will start the dev server anyway. But it takes time and it's pretty much faster in the terminal. So I would recommend that you also get familiar with the terminal and Git and so on. So get a bit the basics. And now you can see that the dev server started on localhost 3000. Let's look at it. Yep, it's here. It's just hello Next.js 15 and perfect. Okay, I will stop this now and we'll start the dev server with the terminal. Good. So let's switch back to the browser. We want to add here example. We need to know where to edit files. Yep. And we have a bunch of files. And since I'm new to this code base and I don't have any clue and I don't want to think too much, meaning let's go back to the ask mode and ask it, hey, where do I change the homepage? Or if you want to be more specific, you can see it's mainly the main route. So you have different routes like dashboard or I don't know, settings or user. And this one is the homepage, the main route. So ask it where the main /route is. Good, cursor is finished and we can see here is the app page is the main page. Oh, perfect. Let me close this with CMDB. Let's also close the composer for now and write next 16. Go back. Yeah, and you can see we have changed the correct page. All right, now let's add some dashboard. And for a dashboard, we need a user interface library. In my case, I'm using Next, and it's very obvious that one of the most popular user interface libraries is ShadCN. So we will probably end with ShadCN, but we can also ask the chat here. I want to add a dashboard user interface. What UI library you would recommend? And then you can write, either you write for my code base, add code base. Sorry, I need to switch to the ask mode for my code base. Or you can also refer to the package JSON. Just like imagine you assemble a car, and assembling doesn't mean you producing also the tires or the steering wheel and the body parts. You purchase them from external providers and assemble it in your own company. And the same or similar is with package JSON. You don't have to purchase these dependencies or packages. You're just using external parts and assembling your own dashboard or project or MVP, whatever, in your code base. And when we reference, so with add, we can say, hey, look at this file, look at package JSON, scan it, and tell me which libraries I'm using and find for me the best user interface library. Let's add web, and add web meaning that cursor is looking in the internet live. Let's hit enter. So cursor is using EXA as provider for searching in the internet, similar to Brave Search or Perplexity. They also can search in the internet, and it suggests me NextUI and ShadCN. Okay, we're going with ShadCN. Good. To install ShadCN, we have multiple options. We can do it manually. Maybe let's look at the website. Okay, this is the ShadCN website, and you can see all these beautiful UI components and so on. A lot of people hate ShadCN because they complain the complete internet looks now like ShadCN, but it's the same as Tailwind CSS, and it's also the same with WordPress website. All WordPress websites look the same. The history repeats itself, so don't bother with it. You could also customize ShadCN to a point where no one recognizes it anymore that it was ever ShadCN. Yeah, but that's another story. Good, let's go to the docs, installation, and choose your framework. In our case, it's Next.js, and you can see all these descriptions like use ShadCN latest init and install it and so on. So we can do it step by step. Yeah, so that means we're copy this part, go back here and paste it in the terminal. That's one option we can use. Or we could just tell the agent to install it. And this is something we're going to do now. Then go to the agent. Or maybe let's ask cursor before and let's plan a bit. I want to install ShadCN. Look up the docs. So for the docs, we can add our docs to cursor, meaning we can always reference to these docs. This is pretty easy. Let's go back to the website ShadCN, copy paste it, then go to add docs. You can see here a little icon, click on it. I've already added it, add new doc. Yeah, and then just add the documentation here. Right, ShadCN. The documentation indexing is a bit confusing here in cursor. You not really know what gets indexed. Sometimes the whole website gets indexed and sometimes a few pages. You need to double check this. I will explicit now add here the installation next step. So let's say ShadCN UI installation and confirm this. Then the cursor setting opens, and you can somewhere find here this ShadCN. I have a lot of docs here. ShadCN, yeah, here the installation, and click on the little book icon, and you can see here what already got indexed. If this didn't work, or you see here a yellow dot, then just try to re-index it. Okay, good. Let's close it. And let's say I want to install ShadCN. I also want to add a simple component to test if it works. Let's go back to ShadCN and look what components do we have here. We have, for example, an avatar component, badge component, calendar. Yeah, let's add the calendar component. Good. You can see here the code, but ignore this now. We just tell cursor that we want this calendar component. A simple calendar component to test if it works. Use the docs. So we are asking now, so we don't do any changes. We're asking cursor now, hey, what would you do if we add this library? And since we have asked before, what is the best UI library, and it recommended us NextUI and ShadCN, maybe it's better to open a new chat. If you work a lot with ChatGPT, then you don't have the same chat for asking about a disease or asking about travel inspirations. You open two different chats because the one chat has the context about a disease and the other chat has the context about the travel inspirations. You don't mix them together because the LLM gets confused with all your different questions. This is like when you talk to a friend and tell him, hey, I'm so sick today, but I'm looking for travel tips. You know, this is kind of confusing. And that we don't confuse cursor, we open a new chat, so we have a fresh context. You could also, by the way, reset the context with /reset context. Yeah. Paste it here and switch to ask, not to agent. And let's first ask if everything is okay. Good. I help you install Shadesian and add a calendar component. Let's do this step by step. Yeah. Does this look good? And this is one new feature here in Cursor. You can use this context directly. So this multi-round discussions, it was just round, but you get the idea, and build it now. You don't have to copy paste everything or to apply it. Now go to the agent or edit mode. We go to the edit mode. Now implement my feature. It's okay that we are just using now implement my feature because it's using the context from before. We have already talked about it. It's like, again, you're talking to a friend about this calendar component and then you tell, now implement it. And he doesn't ask you, what should I implement? It's obviously that the calendar component should be implemented because you have talked about it like an hour. We don't need to add context here because Cursor knows that page and this bash command should be executed. Okay, then let's hit enter. Okay, code generation has been finished. Before you hit accept, let's go through all this interface changes and also about the different confirmation modes. Let's first look at all the changes. We have here now implement my feature, and you can see that it has changed the page tier 6 and added 18 lines and removed 3. Or it will remove. It doesn't have done anything yet. Okay, this is not final. This is just kind of a preview. You can look if everything is correctly, if everything works, and so on. Good. You can click on page tier 6 and the page tier 6 will open. So let's close it again and it's opened again. Here you can accept the change, like save everything. You can also accept it line by line or block by block. This accept here is the same like this one here. You can also switch between here the diffs, like the diffs are red is what getting removed and green is what getting added. We could reapply it, meaning the whole generation process will be run again. That doesn't make any sense now. We could copy paste the complete code to the file, but since we're using edit, or if we would use agent, we don't need this to copy paste it. Then scroll down, add use client directive. Okay. Then let's look at the code. We have some error here. I can see this already with this small waves. And we can also switch between the file changes. Yep, you can see block by block what has been changed or what will change. If we did any mistake, we can always restore to a checkpoint, meaning, hey, I messed up and I want to revert everything. So this restore checkpoint works pretty good, but I always would recommend that you work with Git. Good. You could also open this small window here and you can see all files with getting a change. In our terms, it's just the page tier 6. You can also open here diff editor. Close this one here. You can see that this is the previous version and this will be the new version. It's pretty helpful if you have a large code base or a really long code file and you need to look at all these diffs. Pretty helpful. It's now back from a previous version. It was removed sometimes in the recent version, so I couldn't find it anymore. Let's close this review. Open the new chat again and open the page tier 6 again. Good. So we've rechecked all. we can completely restore kind of to this checkpoint, meaning we don't accept any file. We could also just say no to this file. Yeah, if we have multiple file changes, we can also do a single select for rejecting the files. Now let's preview the changes. Open your browser and reload it. And you can see we have some issue. And it tells us failed to compile alias to the relative components UI calendar inside of project. What does that mean? We have now two possibilities. I'll show you the first one. The first one is we'll just copy paste this one here. Let's open a new chat, go to the ask mode and ask, hey, I have some error here. How do I fix this error? And again, in the ask mode, we don't do any changes. We're just asking about these errors here. And it tells us, hey, you need to install the component first before you use it. Okay. Let's look at the Project Explorer. Go to the components file, and you can see that we have button, card, input, scroll area, but we don't have this calendar here. Meaning that we need to manually install this component. Okay. Remember, we did all these changes with the edit mode. So to fix this issue now, copy paste this, open the terminal, a bit smaller, and you can see that we have already running a terminal session, which means that our dev server is running here. So let's add another terminal. We can use here a new terminal or we can split it. Let's add here the new terminal. You can switch to the other here and add this pmpx add calendar. Now let's go back to the project tree and you can see the calendar has been added. Let's test this one and our calendar works perfectly. Okay. So this is one possibility that you can solve it. It's more specific and it's a longer road to get this in, but you can control everything. Now let's remove this calendar again. By the way, you can click here to show chat history and you can always go back to a previous chat. Then go to installing ShadCN. Okay. So I didn't manually confirm the change. It already did it for me. But anyway, let's restore to the checkpoint and remove everything. Yep, I want to restore it. And we are back to this Next.js 16. Go back to the browser, reload, and our calendar component is gone. Good. Let's do another try. Let's open a new chat and now let's write the same as before. Have this one here, installing second. Yeah, here. I want to install ShadCN and I also want to add a simple calendar component to test use the docs. Perfect. Go to the new chat and now we are using the agent mode, not the edit mode. And you will see the difference now. Let's send it. Good. I notice you want to work with ShadCN, so I'll fetch the relevant rules first. We will talk about rules a bit later. Let's wait until it has been finished. And now you can see how powerful the agent is. It tells us first, let's install ShadCN using the correct command. So in comparison to the edit mode, you don't need to install these components manually in the terminal. The agent will install all these packages, which we have talked before in this assembling car example. It will kind of purchase and assemble it automatically to your code base. You don't have to do this manually. Yeah, you can see that it's adding this calendar component and it's also installing this date FNS command. But this is also an advantage and a disadvantage of the agent mode. Sometimes the agent does install things you don't want and things get messed up. So with the edit mode, you can be a lot more specific, but it's more manual work. On the other hand, the agent mode is more autonomous, but it sometimes hallucinates and brings stuff into your code base you really don't need. But anyway, date FNS is okay for now. Again, maybe it's needed for the calendar, not sure. Then let's see, use client, okay. Calendar should now be working. Yep, let's look at our code base. And you can see the agent has done all our steps. Perfect. This is how we can get features into our code base. And you can see that I don't have accepted or applied anything. It already did his job and it's finished. And sometimes cursor is doing stuff you really don't want. Again, sometimes it's installing libraries and it gets really critical if it's deleting any files or it's just using Git. Yesterday on a project, it was using Git and added and committed all my changes to the repository without telling it. This is critical and we don't want that and we want to avoid this stuff. For this, go to the cursor settings. Let's close it with CMD and close also this window. Then go to features and scroll to chart and then enable YOLO mode. YOLO mode is basically a mode that allows cursor to execute commands on its own. That's maybe also dangerous because it could delete any files or run any harmful code. So use this with caution. Anyway, you can tell cursor, hey, which command should never be executed automatically. And I've added git, rm, move, and mkdir, and I would add here some more. And let's see what does that mean. So let's open the composer, add a new window, and tell it, hey, commit all my changes, or hey, git add and commit all my changes to the repository. Be sure that you're in the agent mode and now send it. Okay, and now let me check the current status of a Git repository, see what files need to be committed. And it's trying to run now git status. And it doesn't run automatically. So I need to confirm that it has the permissions to run it. And that's the reason why I've added git here. I want to give exactly manually permissions to use this. Good. Let's cancel this. And while we're already in the settings, I show you some changes here with the new version. Rules and MCP have now new pages. They are not included anymore. I think they were in the features tab. I'm not sure, but I think they were in the features tab. Now you can, rules of AI is now user rules. You can add still here some user rules like always answer in, yeah, let's say lead speak. And now you can see when I ask, hey, how are you today? You can see it answers me with a complete useless rule. But maybe you're not familiar with English or with a certain language. You can say, always answer me in German. Hallo, ja, mir geht es gut. Good. These are useless rules, but I think you get the idea. And then you have the project rules where you can define your guidelines, rules, your setup instructions. You can build your own agents. Pretty powerful. Then we have the MCP servers where you can call other services like, for example, I have here get terminal logs, or you can use Notion to get your stories or tickets in. You can use a GitHub MCP server to get the latest issues in and fix it automatically. So powerful, this new system. A bit complicated to set up, but I think in a few months this will be much easier. Good. I want to show you some more new references. For example, you could use this @ symbol or here @ using Git. This is pretty helpful if you have your code base in Git and want to ask about a specific commit. For example, one teammate has pushed some feature to the code base and you want to ask, hey Git, let's use this added git ignore, and you say, hey, what happened in this commit? Explain me. I should have switched to the ask mode, but anyway, I think this is okay. And cursor will tell you, hey, what happened in this particular git commit. Another powerful feature is using the terminal. this is something a lot of people have been waiting for. So this is our example. Yeah, it works. And to show you this, let me raise some error here. You can see there's a build error with we're using useState in a server component in Next. This is kind of not allowed. And then switch to the terminal. Let me scroll down, check again. You can see that we have this error here in the terminal. And with the terminal command, I'm now in the agent mode. Hey, check my terminal and fix it. Terminals. Oh, I've opened so much terminals. Let's just use this one here. Yeah. And it's getting here this terminal outputs. It can't resolve the UI calendar, but I guess this is from a previous output. And there is a client component error, which we have done now. And cursor is now fixing it. So it's adding back this use client. Let me quickly check. And it's also trying to add this calendar command back in. And it's calling some tools. Okay, not the best use case here, but it works. So anyway, we can accept here the changes, go back, and the issue is fixed. Yeah, I think we have two new themes. So let's go to CMD Shift P, themes, Anysphere dark and cursor dark. They look pretty good. I prefer the cursor dark because we have small line here. Another cool feature I want to show you is that we have YOLO mode also for MCP servers. So let's open a new chat, close this here, and go here to Managed MCP. And let me enable this browser tools MCP server. So browser tools MCP server is basically a possibility to read your logs from the browser. So I can enable it here. Yeah, it started. Browser tools MCP server started debugging. And then let me go back to the page tier 6. Let me now add this error again. And you can see that we have here again a console error. And when you run the agent, for example, if you want to build some kind of self-healing system where you build, try, test, build, try, test, fix, and so on, you can use such MCP server and tell the agent, hey, can you use, and then you need the command. Yeah? You have here console logs, console errors, and so on. Let's use the get console errors to get my, and to fix it. And cursor is now calling this MCP server. You can see it here called MCP tool, get console errors. And with the new version, it runs automatically. Means you don't have to click here, accept. It's similar to the agent YOLO mode. And you can see that we get here these console errors, and it also, and cursor also fixing it for us, accept file, and it's now fixed. The last thing I want to show you is the changes in the cursor rules. If you want to know more about cursor rules, you can also read it on my blog. You just need to go to instructor AIN. I will link it in the comments, and then go to community. Or you can also find the thread on my X profile. Yeah, let's go back to the cursor rules, and let's open one rule here. You can see here, I've here built a pretty small agent, which builds me an application. And you can see here, we have here a new icon, which is called global, apply on every request. And when you click this, it's barely visible. And I think cursor team should fix this. When you enable this, this complete rule gets applied to every request you send to cursor. It's the same I've showed you before in the rule section where you override this system prompt here. You can do it also with files. And with files, you can be a lot more specific. Let me do a simple rule. Let's call it language. And then let's do a MDC. You can also add it with the command pane, Command Shift and P. a new cursor rule, and you can also add it here with the command pane. And then you have a description and auto attach. For the description, this is pretty important because the description is it's kind of the activation. So this is the language default setting. And we can enable global, that on every request this rule is being read. And then again, answer always in, I don't know, Dutch language. And now let's try the chat. Hey, how are you? Let's maybe use the agent, send it. And you can see it always answers us now in this language. And I'll show you another thing which is pretty helpful. Change the calendar or add a dark mode to my app. Enter. We're still in the agent mode. So the agent will handle now adding the dark mode here. I don't understand a bit. I do understand a bit since I speak German. Okay, it's adding next themes and so on. It would have been better if I refer to the docs. So again here, docs and dark mode, next, yes, and copy paste this, go back to cursor and add it to your docs. So cursor has the latest knowledge of it. I missed it. I hope it doesn't produce any errors now. Yeah, it's still generating. Let's wait until it has been finished. We can also add docs manually. Go here to features, go here to add new doc, and you can add it here. Dark, let's call it shed cyan dark mode. Good, that's for the next time. Okay, you can see we have edited 3 files, theme provider, layout, and theme toggle. Now let's open the browser, go back to our app, and we have some dark mode here and it doesn't look very good. Add a theme switcher, and the calendar component should also be in dark mode if enabled. And now we are referring to the docs, shed cyan, dark mode, and updating our code component. We still don't have accept everything. Let's wait if our bugs are fixed. All right, so let's check the code and everything looks pretty cool. That's awesome. Perfect, works good. Then go back to the rules and we remove now this rule. I don't understand everything. Let's close the chat for now and go to the Levin agent. I won't go very deep here. Basically, what we are doing here is we're working on a project with some project logs where we have some tasks. You can see the tasks here in the docs. Let's install a dashboard, add some APIs, and so on. We can also do this automatically. But what I want to show you is that you can use the add here. So you can say always read my local documentation add. Oh, yeah, this is still, I don't know if it's just on my PC, but when I don't have accepted any changes yet, and I'm using the, let me go back, this add jar, then I'm always moving to the unaccepted changes. So let's open the composer again. Let's hit accept all. Everything is now saved. Go back. Let me close everything. Close others. So we only have the 11 MDC. First open project log MD, learn the latest JSON, and use it as your memory. Okay, again, always read my local documentation add. And yes, I didn't tell you this, but I have shed cyan also local on my PC. I've fetched the complete documentation. And so I can tell the agent, hey, in the first step you read in the project log, in the second you read the local documentation, then you build the stories, then do a test-driven development, and so on and so on. I don't want to break the lesson here, but you can see it's pretty powerful what you can do with cursor rules in particular. I want to show you now since we have added here the apply on every request, you can also rename this rule to just MD, because MDC files are markdown files. The C is here that we have these two UI controls, and if we remove the C, you can see what's behind here. It's just a basic YAML front matter with a description, the glob, so like applied, and the always apply true is new. So this is a new feature here. Then don't forget to rename this again to MDC. Call, for example, our agent activate 11 protocol. When I mention here the name, then the description is pretty important because it's being used for activation. So if you write here a description, be specific if you want that cursor is picking up your rule, but it should be catched up anyway if you have added it to global or if you've added here extensions and so on. Good, activate the 11 protocol. And now it's telling us that it's fetching these rules, building these files. The next story. We are using the agent. You can see that the rules that being used. It's pretty helpful. Now you can see that the agent built me automatically the dashboard here. And we have talked already about MCP servers before. You can also now define, and when talking about MCP servers, you can see them here in the settings. I currently have only these browser tools installed and Git terminal logs. You can add here now a file which is called MCP.json. And for this, you can define an MCP server for files. So this needs to be MCP server. Yes. And this makes sense if you want to share all your used MCP servers across the team, or just to put it into your repositories that others can use your used servers too. And to define it, let's split this one here, right? MCP, and you need to add here, for example, for these browser tools, you just here use the npx command and add here the command in the Ajax. Could also add here check. That should do it. You can also maybe add here also minus yet to accept it. These two p.json. And when talking about MCP servers, it's now possible to define a configuration for your MCP servers, to share it with your teammates or to put it into your repository. And if someone else is cloning it, he or she has also these configurations for the MCP servers. To do this, create this cursor folder, add a file and call it MCP.json. And then you have to add here a path. Let me do that. And for my part, I have here one MCP server running. And then you have to write a configuration file, which is called MCP servers. Then give a name. It's called browser tools, for example, or you can use anything you want, like let's say browser tools extension, and then the command and then the args. You find this in the documentation of the MCP server itself. And when you then go to the cursor settings, you see that we have defined a project managed extension. We can add here more. Let's add here, for example, hit tab, and add here GitHub, and then add some args here to run a GitHub MCP server. And you can see it's file-based and you don't have to add this manually here in the settings. That's all I can show you for now. All right, so that was cursor 0.46. Those were some of the highlights that stood out to me, from the fresh new UI look to the improved agent features that makes coding with cursor even more enjoyable. I have to say, for an update, it feels like a nice step up. The interface is cleaner, switching between chat and agent modes is smoother, and overall it just feels more polished. I hope this gave you a good sneak peek at what to expect when the update rolls out to everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me and check out these new features. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more content on coding and building with AI, consider subscribing to the channel. I've got videos on the way and I'd love to have you along this journey. And meanwhile, make sure to check out Instructor AI too. There are great resources to help you dive deeper into AI-driven development. And also let me know your thoughts in the comments. What features of Cursor are you most excited about? Or if you have any questions, drop them below and I will do my best to help out. Thanks again for watching and supporting me. Until next time, happy coding, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.